So there's been an elephant in the room for the last week or so now with Sony. And while a lot of this has focused in on the idea of physical media going away, there are multiple reasons why people are frustrated by this. So it's just the idea of the collector's mentality, the ability to have more choices in the marketplace, but also right now the digital side of things is just not ready for this. Specifically, everything being funneled to a singular closed store ecosystem. It just isn't. Physical media does have a purpose, even if you just buy digital, in that it does kind of balance out the market, but also it's kind of a scapegoat or just a way for Sony to avoid what I think could be heading their way, depending on how they handle the PlayStation 6. And that's some pretty significant regulation, but I wanted to go over some of that here today. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So as of now, Sony will be discontinuing, or they're going to slow down or basically stop production of Blu-ray discs for the PlayStation 5 and then the PlayStation 6, January 2028. Apparently, there will be a way for games that already exist to get reprints or just more discs, but Sony will be drastically reducing their production to the point where no new games will be getting pressed in a disc format and then released onto Best Buy or Walmart or GameStop, wherever, right? And this, of course, has led to a lot of backlash because it will just be an all-digital future starting much sooner than I think any of us, at least that I was anticipating. I thought we had one more generation with the PlayStation 6 system, and at least at the time of this recording, Sony seems pretty dug in. So, of course, it makes people wonder, all right, if they're really going to go through with this, what does that exactly mean for ownership or just digital consumer rights? Because that, to me, is the big elephant in the room right now, outside of Sony just pretending nothing's happening online as they post over and over again, telling you about a fight stick or whatever other game. But the idea of buying a digital product or digital good and having some sort of singular ownership over that product. Now, here's the thing. I think there's like semantics where people are just being silly with it and they go, well, you don't actually own what's on that disc. And I feel like that's pretty obvious. So let's say you buy the new Gears of War game coming up, all right? I think we all know that you don't own the Gears of War franchise when you buy Gears E-Day or what have you. No, I think most of us understand that. But that's kind of what's thrown around. It's like, you don't actually own Gears E-Day then. It's like, no, I own the singular product there, the game, the disc that has the game on it, which means then I can sell it, I can trade it in, I can lend it to a friend, I can take the disc, pop it in, and put it on a different account, like move to another PlayStation. So right now with the digital marketplace, everything is indeed locked down quite heavily with DRM in the sense that if you buy it from Sony, in this case of the PlayStation 5, you go on the digital marketplace, it's just linked to an account. So even further, if there's a hack or somebody is able to steal your account or identity theft, which we're seeing more and more accounts of this as it happens and we go along, then you will lose your entire library of purchases. Whereas if, look, it's bad enough that it happens because you would lose save data, you would lose your trophies, maybe there'd be payment information, you have to cancel a credit card, it's like a whole thing. But if you had your games that were all physical, you could then just say, you know what, I guess I'm making a new account, and then you just, go through and install every game. Yes, it'll take time, but at least it's there as something that is not completely tied to a digital signature with your account. Okay, so the aspect here, though, again, people will talk about the idea that there's nothing on these cartridge or a disc, and I don't really know where that necessarily comes from either, since like Saros does have a Gold Master on the disc. You don't have to be connected to the internet to play it. Star Fox, same deal. Like there's just a Gold Master on the cartridge. Yes, there are updates that you can pull down for day one, and most times it's going to give you a better experience. But for the most part, I mean, they're shipping a game that is set up to be played outright from the disc or the cartridge, and this gets kind of murky, I think, for people because there are instances where you have some information on a disc and then you have to download the rest, or you have a game key card and then you have to download all of it. But there are cases, and I mean, I'd say on the PS5, it's like 70% or so that's just solely on the disc and is not reliant for a significant amount of information to be pulled to then play the game. And I think on the Switch too, we're seeing more and more just like true physical copies happen. And I think it's getting closer to like 50% right now. It was at one point, it was overwhelming in terms of game key cards. I think we're getting closer to half and half currently. But I think it's sort of the way that these companies right now sort of pitch the digital purchase to us, because it is indeed shown kind of as like you're buying to own something. And this has already come up completely in like different states I know that are going over. In California had a whole thing with it when it comes down to they show you buy or purchase next to the digital good, but really you're getting a revocable license added to your account, and then you're able to download the title. But technically, yes, they can take the game out of your library if they want. They can change and alter the game at any time, and that happens pretty frequently with different updates. See, there is something to having a 1.0 Goldmaster on a cartridge or a disc from day one, because how many times do games completely change for over the course of years? Cyberpunk being a big example that I'm sure many people use, where it's kind of a busted mess when it first came out, but if you have that original disc, you can still go back and look at it. But as we've gone along, there have been updates after update after update, and the game has completely shifted since then, so that, yes, game preservation comes into play, but also you do kind of lose just that piece of history. If you do want to show somebody what Cyberpunk was like originally, you would be able to install it, say, off of the disc and show them a pretty busted version of the game. But there is still some, I'd say, novelty in that, okay? The point is, you lose a lot of control around the media that you're buying then when it is just digital. The other thing that that comes up, again, I know the buying, the selling, the trading. Unfortunately, I think there was a path to having an answer to that, and it just got all messed up. That was the whole NFT thing that was happening. The idea, like just the core concept, was good. I think it was correct, and I think it would have played out really, really well for consumers, especially with the idea of having a unique token that's digitized, that is decentralized and not tracked by any one company necessarily, for a digital good to just kind of follow you around or be closer to a physical product that you would hold in your hands. Unfortunately, everything got messed up with, I don't know, PNGs of apes and whatever else, and it ended up looking very scammy and money laundering. It looked bad. So with all of that happening and the hundreds of thousands of dollars getting thrown around for it, millions even, a lot of people ended up backing off of that, and it's just kind of tainted at this point, the idea of NFT, or at least the name, like the NFT, non-fungible token. But the idea was good, and unfortunately, we kind of lost it. We sort of ruined it, you know. This is the way it goes, especially when large amounts of money gets involved with something like that. Because my thing with this is, if there was a way to have a non-fungible token, we'll say, but at least a unique ID for a digitized good that is attached to an account you have, it could be like some wallet or whatever, but you're able to track it just as you, not with Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo or Valve or Epic or whatever, having to track it for you. I think that would be a much better spot for a digital marketplace to be in, because when you have this digital marketplace that is closed and everything is focused on it, that being with Sony, as they're pushing us in that direction right now, post January 2028, you do start to come up with the monopoly talk, and that's where regulators would probably get involved, and some have already been looking at this right now. And even before this, Sony has been hammered with tons of lawsuits. Yes, most of them are class action lawsuits, so Sony's strategy is to pay out millions of dollars and then just move on. But I feel like they will get more plentiful and definitely more severe if we are in a position where Sony really doesn't do a lot to overhaul the idea of buying digital goods from them. And you're only left with, oh, I'll go to the store and buy a code in a box that, to be frank, I don't think many of these retail stores are going to care about like stocking much longer. Like it doesn't seem like something that would, of course, translate into a used product, right? So there are many retail stores that maybe sell used games. Makes no sense. Even discounting some of them, I don't think Sony is necessarily going to. Like, their first-party games are going to probably stay kind of like how Nintendo treats it, but again, there is a used version of a game key card technically. But I think you're going to see Sony push in the direction of their games retain high value, and they get a significantly better cut, 100%, than if they had to put their first party games on retail shelves and lose upwards of 30%. But the other thing that I've thought about, these digital stores are pretty young still. I think people tend to forget that. It was midway through the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 generation that we had the ability to start buying full games, not like Xbox Live Arcade or any of the PlayStation Network, like smaller titles. This was like Assassin's Creed. And I feel like at that time, it was 2010, we started to see this roll out, and obviously the light bulb went off in a lot of investors' heads. It's like, whoa, you can just send them the game without having to actually send them the game. You could just digitize and just teleport it to them, right? And so obviously the wheels start to turn, the money starts flowing in their mind, and it did take a while to get to this point at least. But we've been building our libraries for quite some time, and I'm noticing a pattern here when these companies tell us that a store is shutting down. Let's see if you can spot it. Okay, so this right here is the announcement on PlayStation Blog for PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 3 stores shutting down. Now, we knew this was coming. They told us 5 years ago. They tried to shut it down, and there was backlash, and they said, you know what, we'll leave it up, because it probably didn't matter that much if it was down or up, whatever, like in terms of the storefronts. It was more about the payment processing, and they did some stuff where they disabled portions of it, and you had to do some weird workabouts to get money into your wallet to then buy games on the storefronts. But people were still buying them, and we've been building up a digital library for quite some time. And yeah, that does include Vita and PS3 games. So you can see here that they do talk about this shutting down, and they say that means new content purchases will no longer be possible once the PlayStation Store closes on these devices. To ease the transition, players will still be able to download previously purchased content after closing date for the foreseeable future. So not indefinitely, just the foreseeable future. And I was like, man, I've heard that somewhere before. Here's Nintendo's their announcement, or their Q&A, the discontinuation of the 3DS and the Wii U. And it says here, for the eShop closure, even after March 27th, 2023, and for the foreseeable future, it will still be possible to re-download games and DLC and receive software updates on Wii U and Nintendo 3DS family of systems. So you see kind of the language being used here, as in they don't want to be definitive with the idea of you being able to re-download your purchases, like just outright forever. I do wonder if we will have something happen, or we get to a point where they go, man, it's been 25 years, or it's been 20 years, or something like that. And they go, yeah, I think that's enough for re-downloads. And that, I think, is something that is in the back of people's minds with this whole, the whole digital era that's now rapidly accelerating, coming towards us. Again, I thought we had another generation, but now we have to really start looking at the fine print that's being presented by these different companies. And when I see that, all that's like yelling to me is, oh, okay, there might be a time where you can't re-download your purchases anymore. And we're just talking about games, but we just had a situation where like 500 some odd purchased digital movies were taken out of people's libraries because there was some dispute between Sony and another company. And the answer was, okay, they're just out of your library. Like, that was it. No refunds or nothing to like meet you halfway. It's like, no, they're just gone. And I think people realize then and there, they're like, oh, wow, it really is just like that, huh? Just boom, snap of the finger and it's gone. There's no repercussions, nothing. Yeah, so that's the thing. There are like differences in terms of having a disc with a copy of the game on it physically versus having an entitlement attached to your account that, yes, can technically be revoked at any time. And it just feels like currently Sony is just not ready for this future that they're pitching that's coming up pretty quick for the PlayStation 6 here we think next holiday, 2027. If they really don't have an answer for many of these different questions around digital ownership or trading or reselling your games, or is this something that has to be attached to an account? Is there a version that can be DRM free? Like with for PC, it's open. You can go to GOG and buy a game, and you can actually burn it. One of the fun things I see people do, they burn it to CDs because it's DRM free. and you just have a copy of the game that you can use. Like that's it. Like you put it in your disk drive and install it directly from it. Steam has something similar you can do with certain titles that don't have like overreaching DRM attached to it. People are just burning them to CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays and making a nice little collection on the shelf because you can do that. But with a closed ecosystem like for Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo, I mean, come on, right? So a lot of things to figure out here. I just don't think Sony's ready, but they're gonna do this. They got their fingers in their ears and they're just trying to push through the storm right now. We'll see how long they're able to hold up though, because man, people are after them online right now. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments. Your thoughts about the idea of this all digital future happening pretty quickly, and how would Sony be able to even prepare for that when it comes to digital purchases, or really just digital entitlements at this time. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.